It's time once again for the Kennett Indian Coaches Show as we visit with Kennett Indian head basketball coach Noll Billings. And coach, uh, we talked about this stretch of the season where there's just not any easy games. Last Friday night, you had a home game against one of the top teams in the SEMO Conference, Jackson. Then you turn around and play one of the better small schools in southeast Missouri with Bernie. So you split, and I know that's not what the ultimate goal is, but you really have to be pleased with the way your team bounced back after the Jackson loss.
We were disappointed with not necessarily the loss to Jackson, but the way we performed, the way we played. Felt like we could have played better. They're really good though. That's a great team, but absolutely bounced back and played probably our best game of the year all around as far as dribble, pass, shoot, defend, and just the basics.
You look at your ball club, and we talk about the depth and the numbers of players that see action, but then you look in the scoring column and how many players you have contribute. It's a big advantage for your ball club when you don't just have to depend on maybe one scorer.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the great maybe the best component of running in a lot of guys is you can't really game plan for you can't really game plan for us right now. We had you got 10 guys that score 5 points. That's enough to win a lot of ball games. 50 points wins you a lot of ball games. For instance, Charleston, New Madrid just played, and B.J. Williamson and Jadis are tough, but Charleston had about 10 guys in double digits, man. Or not 10, but they had about 8 guys in double digits. It was really impressive. But for us, we're still confident in everybody we put on the court. Everybody that stepped on the court against Bernie just absolutely got after it, and we ran those kids around the court. And Johnson again had a really tough game, but I don't remember seeing him have an easy shot. Do you?
No, he had to work for everything.
He had to work for everything, and got to tip my hat to him. He's a heck of a player. I look forward to seeing him play at the next level. I think he'll do well. But we made him work for every inch, and that was the game plan. That was written on the board before we went out there, and we really worked hard. I got to give, big shout out to Cooper Hemfling. He helped us get ready all week. Coop's got the quick release, so we had him play Schooley, and we ran him off of those screens. And if he hit the rim, he got points for the scout team. And he worked really hard for us and got us ready. And I got to say this, my guys executed that game plan terrifically. Schooley, I think, only attempted 2 3-point shots. He made them both.
Yeah.
But he only got 2 up, mate. I could be wrong, but I think that's accurate. 3, he got 3 up. Okay. But I mean, that's just, is that me? Come on, coach. No, I mean, that's a really hats off to the guys. He's not an easy guy to hold down and to limit shots. He's got a quick release. And he's got range all the way out to the half court line. So they did a great job of that, and Cooper helped us get ready for that.
Well, you talk about the defensive pressure that you put on Bernie, but your inside game, and I know there's a big difference between a Bernie and a Jackson, but Blake Raspberry, who's going to be one of our guests, and you keep talking about some of these post players that may not really be a true post player. They look good against Bernie, and you utilize that also to score.
If there was one thing I would have done different in Bloomfield, it was play Blake more. When I look back and watch the films, I felt like he's a guy that gave us good minutes and his plus minus. When I go back and look at the stats always, and his stats were always in the plus, and we played better when he was on the court. Yeah, I probably should have played him more looking back, but in the time, rearview mirror. But anyways, I knew coming back into this game, especially with the Bernie game, it was something that they didn't really have an answer for. And I told Blake before the game, I told the whole team, Blake's touching it. I want Blake to touch it every trip if possible. And he did exactly what we asked of him. He just was a man amongst boys in the paint for us and controlled the game from the tip. I mean, he got his hands on the balls. I mean, he got the tip and went down and rebounded, guarded, controlled the paint. They were in foul trouble all night because they just really didn't have an answer for it.
You know, the high post position is a position that may not be as prevalent as it used to be,
Right.
but it's so important when you have a high post player, and I would say Blake fits into that mold. He can
Absolutely.
step out and shoot a three, very comfortable with
He's one
anything
of our
around the
best,
free throw line.
one of the better shooters we have.
You bet. So it's such a weapon when you have that. Plus, it opens up your low post when you've got somebody getting
Right.
the ball on the high post.
He's a mismatch. I mean, he really is. We hoped that would be the case going into the year. So Blake, he didn't play last year. He's a football guy, but I've known Blake through swim team and other sports around town, and I like the kid a lot. I think he's the kind of guy you want to have on the team, and plus I know what kind of athlete he is because I've seen him growing up. He's just a really, really good athlete, really naturally talented kid. And this summer we had him. I begged him to play. He didn't want to play. He was, had his plans for the year, and finally got him, twisted his arm, and he came out for hoops. And we were playing Hayti this summer over at Zenith. We played a lot of ball this summer, as much as Mission would let us. But we were playing Hayti, and they had a good team. We were announcements.
At this time, I need all A&C dual enrollment students.
I think that's going to be a daily.
I think because of our recording schedule, this may be it. Hey, that's just part of being in school. But hey, you talked about all the time that this team has spent together,
Right.
and now you're getting actual game experience, and you're probably just past the midway point of the season. Toughest stretch of the season, but your team, like you say,
better.
it's not even the team that was at Bloomfield.
Well, and just because I do want to finish that thought on, and it ties together perfectly because this summer, I mean, we were a team that we were barely beating pretty poor teams, and I'm not going to name anybody, but and then you go out there and like a guy like Blake, he had barely played at that point, and all of a sudden you kind of saw it click, and he decided I was going to get the ball and I'm going to put it in the hole, and there was nothing the Hayti kids could do. I mean, he scored about 10, 12 straight points, and we ran off of that game. And the coaching staff was like, "Oh my God, that's he could be a problem for people." So we're getting better, but so is a lot of teams are getting better. We're still inconsistent, and that's tough. When you're a young team and when you're a team with low basketball IQ, it's easy to be inconsistent. The teams like Dexter, they may not be at Jackson, but they're gonna, what you're gonna get every night out of those guys, and they're gonna execute every night. They're gonna shoot the ball well every night. They're gonna take care of the ball. We still, we were up 20 against Bernie, and we start throwing it out of bounds and relaxing. And I called a timeout and told our guys that's 4 trips down the court. I mean, they can make up they can make that up in 4 trips, man. Like next thing you know, you're only up single digits and you're in a dogfight. And you just it's hard to stay focused, especially in January with our schedule.
Well, that's I was going to bring that up, and you brought it up before I got to it. But when you have that big lead against a pretty good team, your team needs to learn how to close out ball games.
Absolutely.
And that was a case where I knew you wanted them to protect the basketball, maybe get good shots. And
Right.
if Bernie would have hit some shots, things could have got a little tighter down the stretch.
And they are capable of it. And if there's any 2 guys that we play on the schedule that can hit shots, it's Schooley and Johnson. But I think, in my opinion, remedial or young players or low IQ players, which we are at this point, and we're getting better. But when you get a little lead, everybody starts thinking, well, I need to get me a bucket, or now's the time I could try this new move I want to do. No, that's for practice. That's summer stuff. Execute, and when you get your foot on somebody's throat, you finish them. And if you beat them by 100, you beat them by 100. But you don't end up in dogfights, and you don't end up giving up leads. Just to be consistent, have a game plan, have an identity, and to do it every night. That's the goal.
Well, big games coming up for the Indians. And, of course, Friday night, you're on the road, another SEMO Conference opponent. We'll talk about that and the upcoming games after we visit with one of your seniors, Blake Raspberry. He'll be our guest when the Kennett Coaches Show continues right after this. And we are back with our player guest segment, and Blake Raspberry, one of the seniors on the ball club. We've talked about Blake a little bit already as he was sitting over and was listening, but good to have you along, Blake. I know we talk in football season, and now we see you out on the basketball floor. That's not a place in previous years that we've been accustomed to you being, but you are such a big part of this basketball team. I know you have to be thrilled that Coach Billings, as he said, twisted your arm a little bit during the summer and got you to join this team.
Yes, you're right. I haven't been playing basketball for a while, but I thought about coming out and the choices I would have to think about, and I gave it a shot because, I mean, why not? It's been paying off, and I've been having fun.
You've been having fun, and you're one of those guys that, of course, also plays football, and we visit with you on the football coaches show and now on basketball. But we talk to a lot of football players that get on the basketball floor, and the conditioning that you guys have to have is very much different in one sport compared to the other.
Yes, it's very different. I can play a full game of football, but it's hard to give a good 6-7 minutes without being winded at the end of it. So I got to get plenty of breaks.
Well, and with the type of defense and even offense that the Indians play, I think that's a key with Coach Billings being able to put so many players in. Seeing you develop really here in the second half of the season, you've got a good shooting touch. You stepped out. I know the other night you hit a three here at home, and and then last night, and I'm saying last night because we're recording on Wednesday, against Bernie, you were just a dominant force, and that has to give you confidence moving forward this year.
Yes, sir, it does. I mean, I feel very confident in stepping out and shooting any jumpers from anywhere, and I hope to continue making more.
And then with your size, what do you go, 6'3"?
Yes, 6'3".
We some of these stat books, we could probably stretch him to 6'4", Coach, if we needed to. But the rebounding part, we look at you and a couple others. You're basically the height on this team. So not only the shooting, also rebounding is such an important role that you play.
Very important role. I feel like if we control the boards, we could win almost every game we play.
And I see these offensive and defensive linemen like you were in football. Sometimes you like to go in there and mix it up and trying to get position inside and show some of the guys that aren't used to that what it's like to be pushed and shoved around a little bit.
Yeah, you got to be physical with them. You got to get in there and show your grit and use your teeth and score in there.
Tell us the real deciding factor for you to play basketball this season.
Well, I thought about it, and I had a few friends on the team, and it's my senior year, and I played a little bit in the summer and had some fun. So I said, screw it, let's play.
There you go.
I wasn't leave you alone.
Well, I know Coach Billings and all the Kennett Indian fans and your teammates happy to have you on, and so important to have you guys as a part of the team, and I think that's very important. And just to praise Coach Billings a little bit, you got to get the guys that you have to come out and play, and that's what he's been able to do. So, Blake, let's talk a little bit. You're a senior. Talk about your future plans. I know if people didn't see your football interview, they may have missed it, but tell us about your future plans.
Well, like my football interview, I got asked the same question, and I'm going to get the same response. I haven't really developed a full plan on where I'm going. I'm still deciding on what college to attend to and what to major in. So just a big choice, and I'm still thinking about it.
Well, you got time for that, and you've got some basketball games in front of you, and good luck. Great to talk to you again, and we want to encourage all the fans to come out and watch you guys play on the floor.
Thank you.
Blake Raspberry, our player guest on the Kennett Indian Coaches Show, back with Coach Noll Billings as we wrap things up for this week's edition right after this. Back with Kennett Indian head basketball coach Noll Billings as the Indians go on the road tonight to take on the Notre Dame Bulldogs, and we were just discussing in the break that had some good matchups. I remember you were flashing back on your years as a Kennett Indian and some of the battles, and never an easy place to play when you go to Notre Dame.
Never. It's a place you don't pick up a lot of wins. They got a great crowd. They definitely have a vibe, a unique dynamic. Most coaches would say you don't get a lot of calls when you're at Notre Dame, but we just got to take care of business. They shoot well, they screen well, they're going to be where they're supposed to be. They execute offense. That's given us a problem so far this year. Teams like Dexter, teams like Donovan, teams that execute and play fundamental basketball have given us problems. It's really going to come down to whether we can force the tempo and force them to play our style of basketball, in my opinion. And I feel confident our guys are, we've done that for the most part. But Notre Dame's they're going to try to slow us down. They're going to try to make us shoot it from the cheap seats. They're going to try to keep us out of transition.
You played them in the CMO Conference tournament very early in the season, a game that was fairly close compared to the final score. So not a big surprise when you're playing Notre Dame. You kind of know what they have, but they may be in for a surprise tonight with your team.
Yeah, and I think Notre Dame's, they have a great coaching staff, and they know that we're capable. They know that it was a 9-point game in the fourth, and that it was a lot closer game than it ended up being. They're a team that makes free throws, so if you're having to foul late, you're out of luck. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. We're a different team than we were then. I'm sure they've made strides. So, and basketball is one of those sports where, one guy having a great night can sway the entire game. You only got 5 guys out there at a time. We didn't have Ashton Disputes in the lineup at CMO Conference. He's been stellar for us. Deshaun Wilson wasn't playing the kind of basketball we've seen of him lately. Blake Raspberry's emerged like we talked about. A lot of guys are playing a whole kind of different type of ball than they were at that point in the season.
Well, Notre Dame tonight, hope we get a big crowd up there because it will be loud and rocking.
That's right.
Up at Notre Dame. Tuesday, you go to another place that's not easy to play, and that's Twin Rivers. And great basketball tradition, one of the smaller schools, but a little bit like Bernie. That's one of those teams that's always pretty fundamental and usually have good shooters, and that's what you're going to see with Twin Rivers.
Yeah, I think they actually played Bernie close, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
They have anytime you have a coaching staff like theirs, they know what they're doing. They're going to have a game plan. They're going to have us scouted. They're going to know which hand you dribble with, which way you want to drive, who can shoot free throws, who can't. They're going to have a game plan, and they're going to execute it. And Twin Rivers is always going to be salty. You got to take them seriously. You got to show up and play, or it's a game you can get knocked off up there real easily. For our guys, though, and I've said this before, I don't care if it's Twin Rivers, I don't care if it's Jackson, who put a thumping on us. We have to establish our identity, and that is by knowing who we are, knowing what we do, knowing what we're going to do night in, night out, and imposing our will on the other team. And if we can do that, we'll have games like we had the other night against Bernie. And if we can't do that, we'll have games like we had against Jackson, where they imposed their will on us. They were the controller of the physical play and the pace, and we never could just really shift it our way.
Well, we're recording this, obviously, a little earlier in the week as we do our coaches' shows on Wednesday, and I refer to games tonight for people listening or watching. But let's talk a little bit about your JV team, because it's a busy week. So many of your JV guys also plays on the varsity side of things, and JV tournament going on in Malden. And
the bulk majority of the varsity guys also play JV. There's just a large group of them. And they'll have 5 games in 6 days. And I know they think I'm crazy, and they're looking at me like, Coach, are you serious? They play Bernie, they bust it, they get after, they chase Johnson and Schooley all around the court, and then next day I'm like, yeah, you're loading up and going to Malden. I think it's important. I really am a believer that just as important it is for a guy like Ashton Disputes to emerge on varsity and to have that coming out party and get to contribute to a varsity win. I think it's also important for him to be the man on JV and get to run the offense and bark orders and learn how to win and learn how to control the ball and learn how to run a team. I mean, you can't run a team in the CMO Conference when you're 14 years old. It's just, it doesn't happen very often. But you need both. And I think we have an opportunity to do both. And Missouri gives us 6 quarters a night and I think 130 quarters for the year, and we're using every one of them for all of our guys that are eligible. So
it pays off when these guys are seniors, and you look at the court time they've had. It makes a world of difference.
I remember screaming and yelling barking to Coach Vaughn that Fred Garman could be playing varsity. He's a freshman or a sophomore. He played JV both years, freshman year and sophomore year, and developed and continued to play with Cameron and Andy and all that whole group. Jay Shavers, Jack Walls, they all played together. And then he was All-State 2 years in a row, junior, senior year. So Coach Vaughn knew what he was doing.
Coach Noll Billings also knows what he's doing. Got a very scrappy, tough Kennett Indian team. And I'll tell you this, Coach, come district time, there's going to be a lot of teams that won't want to see the Kennett Indians in the district.
We feel like we're setting ourselves up. As a coaching staff, we feel like our guys are getting better every night, and it's based around districts. It's putting yourself in a position to win districts.
We'll go get you a SEMO conference win at Notre Dame. Coach Noll Billings, our guest here on the Kennett Indian Coaches Show.